Well, welcome to our Weather Impact Report, where we take a look at the top weather stories here in Georgia and around the nation. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss. From a brush fire right here at home to farmers recovering with federal aid to a deadly round of thunderstorms in California. This week brought serious weather impacts in very different ways. Let's start with the fire in Murray County. On Monday, parts of North Georgia were at a higher risk for wildfires, and one that had been burning for hours up in Murray County is now contained. The Georgia Forestry Commission says this wildfire near Peoples Lake Road burned at least 60 acres, and the cause is still under investigation. 5 years after the worst fire season in the state history, one western city is still feeling the impacts, and it's not even near the area that burned. Brad Hicks shows you why the struggle continues and the bold decision to ensure it never happens again.
There's no Rocky Mountain High in Greeley, Colorado. The city is smack on the western edge of the Great Plains, but there is Rocky Mountain water.
That watershed is the main source of our drinking water.
But two huge fires in 2020 scorched those areas. The city was about 40 miles away from the nearest flames, but ash washed into the rivers from which Greeley gets its water.
And when that ash gets in these ponds, it doesn't settle out, and we can't treat it. So we have to shut off our intake. To have two fires in one summer affect all of our drinking water sources, that was a real wake-up call for us.
And 5 years later, it's still an issue after storms.
We're not out of the woods yet.
Greeley is not alone.
A lot of areas, particularly in the western U.S., are quite vulnerable to these fires. And so water providers will probably need to be thinking about having multiple sources of water.
Which is what Greeley has decided to do.
We said, could we have many little reservoirs? Could we have a different kind of reservoir? And Terry Ranch was identified as an alternative, and it was an amazing alternative.
Terry Ranch is an aquifer in northern Colorado, a giant underground sponge of rock and sand. Before the fires, Greeley was planning to expand the biggest of its 6 reservoirs, but even then, it would hold less than 5% of what the aquifer banks.
It's big. It's very, very big.
When the rivers are sending down extra water from the mountains, this pipeline under construction will send it up to the aquifer for storage. And if there's a drought or another devastating fire, they'll pipe the water in the other direction, from the aquifer to Greeley. Unlike the reservoirs, water in the aquifer is protected from drought and fire, giving Greeley the kind of resiliency that's needed with unpredictable climate and increasing fire danger.
Yeah, lessons learned.
It is an incredibly resilient source of water.
In Greeley, Colorado, Brad Hicks reporting.
Well, in another part of the state of Colorado, people are seeking solutions as well. The Boulder Star, a generations-old tradition that illuminates the mountainside each winter, has received a modern safety makeover this year with new technology designed to prevent wildfires during high winds and dry conditions. Colton Chavez has more.
It's a little unsettling to be in this kind of weather right now.
Warm days in Boulder make a lot less sense when it's the middle of November.
It's always weird to be in Boulder.
Weird can make Boulder special. But Jonathan Singer knows weird weather is no joke when fire season is year-round in Colorado.
You know, we've got to come up with some real answers about how we can adjust to this.
This year, that means changes to a Boulder staple.
Boulder Star just carries bigger and bigger weight every year, and that's a good thing.
This year, Jonathan in the Boulder Chamber improved the star by adding a remote sensor that conserves energy and automatically turns off during high winds to prevent fire danger.
And we recognize that the land we're on is precious because we've seen what catastrophic events can happen by accident.
Accidents like the 10-acre grass fire that was started by heavy mowing equipment off Highway 36 just one day ago. Jonathan says he's thankful for these changes as hot and dry temperatures continue.
The Boulder Star is a symbol of solace. It's a symbol of hope.
A hope to always keep Boulder weird, but also protected for the future generations to come.
It's also a symbol of ingenuity, and that's what we're doing today.
It's hard to think about, but nearly a month ago, Hurricane Melissa slammed into Jamaica as a Category 5 storm before making its way to Cuba and the Bahamas. At least 90 people died in that storm, and now it is officially in the record books. As the storm was approaching Jamaica last month, there was a wind gust of 252 miles per hour. The data was collected after a Hurricane Hunter plane dropped a batch of specifically developed weather instruments into the storm. Scientists at the National Center for Atmospheric Research at the National Science Foundation verified that reading. That means the 252-mile-per-hour wind gust mark is the highest wind speed ever recorded. The previous record was a 248-mile-per-hour wind gust measured by these instruments during a typhoon in 2010. Severe weather took a turn in California this week. One person is dead after a large tree fell on top of two cars in California's San Fernando Valley on Friday. Officials say one of the vehicles was occupied. No other injuries were reported, and roads near the scene were shut down as crews worked to remove the tree. Here's something you may not know. Farmers are turning to high-tech tools to keep up with modern challenges. One family is using drones to revolutionize their farming operation. A farm in Elgin, Minnesota has embraced cutting-edge technology to improve crop management. The family is using drones to spot treatment pesticides across their 4,300-acre farm. The battery-powered drones can carry up to 230 pounds and travel 30 miles per hour, making farming more efficient and environmentally friendly.
If it's only in a certain section or top of the hill or maybe just in the valley, the drone can just spray that section. And we don't have to call somebody. We can now say, all right, load up the drones, let's go.
Drones treated 10 million acres last year nationwide. That's according to federal data. But costs, regulations, and training remain challenges. Still, for farmers like Joe, the technology is worth the wait. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is announcing another round of disaster relief for farmers. Earlier this year, Congress approved a total of $16 billion to help farmers hit by natural disasters in 2023 and 2024. Hurricane Helene devastated Georgia crops. Farmers in the state suffered losses of $5.5 billion. According to one analyst from the University of Georgia, now the USDA is set to open applications for stage 2 of the supplemental disaster relief program. This stage includes money for farmers who suffered losses to crops, trees, bushes, and vines, but who were not eligible for stage 1 of the program. Applications are set to open next Monday, November 24th. They will close on April the 30th. Well, winter is on the way, and that means cloudier weather isn't too far behind, and for some reason, seasonal depression. Derek Tritz reports on the psychology behind the clouds and your brain.
Daylight hours decrease in the fall and early winter, and even when the sun is out, it's often covered by clouds. Our very own Jeff Weller says the transition from warm to cold weather is a recipe for cloudy days.
Warm air and cold air like to fight. Whenever they fight, they produce clouds.
The annual duel between warm air and cold air can bring sunshine to as low as 26%.
The main jet stream pulls a bit north of us, and that pulls up moisture from the Gulf, and that gives us moisture in the atmosphere while temperatures are cooling off, and thus you get cloud cover.
And according to Jason Seward, a licensed psychologist with the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, sunlight can directly affect your brain.
When you go outside and your eyes absorb sunlight, it will cause a neurotransmitter called serotonin to be released. And serotonin is directly related to your mood state.
Less serotonin typically means a worse mood.
It's hard to be optimistic, but also you see things like greater fatigue, greater exhaustion. You'll see people with sleep disruptions.
It even affects your hunger.
Incidentally, sometimes people have greater cravings for carbohydrates. They get more hungry. They gain weight in the winter.
However, there are ways to combat seasonal depression.
Be very deliberate about being social, resisting the urge to sort of lock yourself into the couch for long stretches at times.
While being social doesn't take the clouds out of the sky, it can help you forget that they're blocking the sun. You can also always seek professional help during these cold and cloudy months.
That's it for this week's Weather Impact Report. A brush fire close to home, help finally reaching farmers, and a deadly burst of storms on the West Coast. Weather never stops shaping our lives, and we'll be right here tracking every shift. See you next week, and stay safe out there and get some sunshine. With your Impact Report, I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.